Questioning, Madame Dancho, the floor is yours for 6 minutes.
Yes, thank you to the witnesses for being here. Appreciated your opening remarks. Mr. Luprecht, I'll start with yours. And sort of, you kicked off a lot of the things I wanted to ask you about today in your opening remarks, but I was listening to you, I believe it was in June, you were on the Line podcast, and I encourage others to listen to it. You gave quite a robust assessment of where we're at and where we need to be. And I did want to just pull on one of the comments you'd made. I thought it was quite informative that you touched on earlier. You said the Prime Minister is going to have to sell Canadians on a grand new bargain, a new social contract where we're going to build pipelines to export hydrocarbons, in particular to our allies, to some extent in Asia, but particularly Europe, because effectively we need to explain to Canadians that we've been subsidizing Russia's war of aggression on Ukraine by keeping energy prices high in Europe because we're refusing to export hydrocarbons. And we're going to use that revenue to pay for defense, and you went on to say other things as well. So can you elaborate further for the committee it sounds like you believe that exporting, having pipeline infrastructure to export to Europe and other places would be key to a defense industrial strategy. Is that a fair assessment of what you said? And if you could elaborate?
Well, we're going to need to pay for it somehow. We've all seen the debt and the structural deficit that we have. And so if we're not prepared to raise taxes, we're only prepared to make modest concessions on cuts to services. And we don't completely we want to maintain our AAA credit rating. And I always point out that if Canada joined the European Union, it would be the 6th country in the European Union with a AAA credit rating. So AAA credit ratings are in high demand among allies. So it's in our interest to preserve that so we can borrow at lower rates. Then this is the way to generate the revenue. And I think we can do this in a way to bring all Canadians on board, because with this revenue, as I say, we can pay for new social services, we can pay down the debt, we can pay for defense, and we can pay for the energy transition. So I think we can all win.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And then on the comments that you made about the importance of supporting our allies in Europe, and one of those tools, not only just being what we typically think in defense, but also supporting them with exporting gas to Europe. Can you comment on the importance of that?
So I just spent 6 months in Brussels and had considerable opportunity to exchange with some of the key leadership, including on the Commission and the European Parliament. If you go around European capitals, what is the challenge? That energy prices, being 2 to 4 times as high, are not just undermining Europe's competitiveness, they are fundamentally undermining European democratic institutions, because just like in Canada, but only to a much higher degree, people are frustrated with the prices that they are paying. So we are not just supporting our European allies in their efforts to keep their economies competitive, we are also protecting their democratic integrity. And by being idiosyncratic about our hydrocarbons and our critical minerals, we are undermining our own geostrategic interests, because we are not delivering for what is key for European allies. And of course, for decades, we have used European allies to counteract the vagaries of US unilateralism. The silence by European partners has been stunning when our sovereignty, political and economic, has been threatened by a US administration. And that is because we have not delivered. And I think we can strike a bargain that delivers for both us and for European allies and preserves what has made us safe, prosperous and democratic for the last 75 years.
Thank you. Thank you. And just switching gears a little bit, you'd also mentioned on another podcast, the Breaker podcast, quote, "I think we have learned that China can never be counted on as a trusted partner, and so that we will always need to hedge on that relationship." So, Mr. Luprecht, what do you think of this sort of recent rapprochement between Prime Minister Carney and the Communist Party in Beijing? How do you think that impacts our defense and security policy?
Supposedly, if we're a middle power and we have interests to assert, although I think we've been using, in terms of our GDP, we've not been leveraging our middle power status internationally. Clearly, China is a country we will always have to work with. But I think China has shown itself time and again not to be a trustworthy partner and not to be a trustworthy ally. And given our trade relationship with China, I think we have an opportunity to push back and to stand up for ourselves. And I think other allies, such as Australia, have done that much more systematically and strategically than Canada has.
Mm-hmm. So really on the defense industrial strategy, you also feel, from my assessment of what you're saying, is not only should we be considering energy as part of that, but our foreign policies obviously should be key to when we're thinking about our defense, which I think is obvious, but I think we need that as part of this report, so I appreciate you putting this on the record. But just further to that, you'd also said that, in Canada, instruments of statecraft have really atrophied, and our international reputation has taken a hit, and Canada's government instead embraced sort of a values-based foreign policy. In effect, it made foreign policy an extension of domestic policy. You went on to say that we've let our allies down on things that matter, energy security, defense, and investments in the defense industry. And you went on to also link that to what you said earlier, that the European allies aren't really coming to our defense with the U.S. So just in the concluding few seconds, just again driving home the point of tying this all together, how important it is for the strategy. Thank you.
Canada and allies pay 2 to 4 times as much per piece of equipment that we procure than the United States because we don't have the economies of scale. Now, NATO works by national defense procurement ecosystems, but there are opportunities for collaboration that are not just about the sort of innovation that my colleagues have talked about, but that are also ensuring that we get the best return, the best value for money for the Canadian taxpayer. And I think our European colleagues are very much able to underwrite some of the key critical infrastructure and major projects investments that we are looking to make in Canada in return for us delivering for them. And we can do this with long-term 20, 30-year contracts, the way other allies have done this, in a way that requires relatively little government investing and provides the sort of security also for the capital that is being invested that will generate the collective payoffs that we're all looking for. So that's what a strategy is about. What are our ends? What are the ways available, and what are the means to finance that? And we need to do this in collaboration, in particular with our European partners.